Welcome back to the Fix Ops Roundtable. I'm Ed Roberts here with Gene Eanes. And Gene, look at the panel that we have here today.
Oh my goodness, you got a lot of heavy hitters up here, Ed.
Absolutely. We're here to talk to you about tech development. And if that is not sentimental to your heart, it should be. You might want to give yourself a gut check if it's not. You want to kick us off, Gene?
I would love to. Tully, I'm going to start with you. How are we redefining the technician career path to make it more appealing and more sustainable long term?
Great question. I think it starts where you develop your own technicians, right? You're starting with porters. You're starting with people that are coming out of high school, junior colleges, and UTI kind of programs, right? You're getting those people in there, getting them excited about producing those hours. But here's the best part, is we're putting their pay plan in writing. When we come in, the pathway to 55 is in writing. They never have to ask for a pay raise as long as they perform all these great duties. And that is all based around training. And it starts where we bring them in and we have them set up as a shop assistant where there is no commitment. They're working with a mentor. Let's find out if they can fix a car. Can they put a wheel on the car right? Right? We want to know that before we commit to the hourly technician and ultimately over to the flat rate technician all the way to a foreman. But the goal is to have the path in writing when they start so they can go home and be excited about it. That's the whole issue. Make these guys rich and tired.
So Marco said earlier that there is not a shortage of technicians.
Correct.
Now, I know most of our audience would disagree with that. But I would agree with Marco and say there's not a shortage of technicians. There's a shortage of developmental programs for our technicians, yes, to bring them up to where they feel like they have a career in the automotive industry. Tom, what do you do at West Cherry to overcome that obstacle?
Well, I think one of the things first, like our industry can be so backwards if you think about it, right? The more you train, the better you get at your job, the more you learn, the more difficult work you get, the harder it actually becomes to make money, right? You've got to do more and more of that harder work to make the same amount of money. And often the rate raises don't overcome the loss in hours, right? So for us, one of the biggest things is making sure that our technicians know that that's not the case, right? We have multiple different ways for them to earn money. We have different pay plans for senior master level. We have different pay plans for shop foremen, team leader. You know, we have those pay plans so that they understand that we're not just going to work you to death and then throw you away when you get to a point where physically you can't do it anymore. I think it's very important for them to understand that there's that out.
Amen, brother.
Absolutely. Marco, you want to touch on that?
I wholeheartedly agree with that. Mainly on the physical part. People don't hold in mind really enough is that after doing this for 30 plus years, I'm hurting. I cannot keep this up in the rate that I used to. So just by physical demands, my pay is doing this. So where in the industry is the gratitude towards me to gaining all this experience over 30 years and being able to transfer the knowledge to the new guys coming in? How are the new guys going to look at the industry when you have the top dogs like myself and like Curtis, who is also in the audience today? The top dogs in the shop are being treated like second-rank citizens and being discarded like, oh, they're done. How are we going to keep these people interested in the industry? The way we do that is by culture. I have said this enough, and I will say it again until you're sick and tired of it. It's all about culture to keep technicians in the shop, to retain new technicians, and to have the technicians that are in the shop right now willing to transfer the knowledge to the young ones. Because why would I hand you stuff for free that I work for a long, hard time?
So Maureen, you get to see this from the outside approach and partner with stores, and what do you see?
Well, I got to tell you, we have many wonderful partners here today, and I think one of the things that have really kind of struck out is you really have to have the roadmap, and the roadmap starts very young. And as Tully and Mark, you guys have said, is you've got to really bring them in and give them a pathway. And we do that with a lot of different ways. I know we contribute from the standpoint of providing data that helps a technician to understand, what are some of the greatest challenges we have. And sometimes it's opcode usage, right? So to understand that we're doing the right thing, you got to be able to look at those repair orders, and you have to be able to help them to understand that they're having an impact on their own paycheck, but they also do on the dealership. And that really starts to build, you call culture. I always start with behavior. Behavior drives culture. So you want that behavior of teamwork. And you want the technician and the service advisors to see they're on the same team. We're successful when we do it together. So when we can use analytics to help show them when they're being successful. And then we have to really look at capacity and forecasting. We have to say to them, you know, you're going to go to training. You're going to have OEM training, ASE training, all of the things that all of you invest in. And so we've got to know when that's going to happen so that we're able to really make that gross profit in those months, because the entire dealership relies on fixed operations to drive the numbers.
Absolutely.
Amen.
John, we'll go to you on this one, then we'll go down the line and let you guys give some input on it. But has mentorship or apprenticeship helped the success of your operations there at All-American?
Absolutely. So mentorship. So on the new hires, whether it's a UTI graduate, trade school, or just somebody that's coming into the business, we mentorship program with a senior level technician for at least 6 months, so they get the feel how the system works, how the parts department works, how the shop equipment works, and we kind of test their ability, where their heads are, where their hands are at. If they're learning, they're retaining, and we also set them up with web-based training and then into classroom training for OEM. It's a career path, and then after the 6 months, we kind of evaluate, are they ready to go on their own and start in the quick lane, or maybe on a mobile service truck, or things like that. And as the years go on, the experience becomes in play. The training never, ever ends. It always continues. There's always new product, EVs, new technology. As Marco touched on before, how much complex these cars are today, from the European models down to basic, some of the American-made cars, but they're still very, very complex and always need training. So the mentorship, again, 6 months from there, reevaluate, and then we branch off on their own if they are checking the boxes.
Okay. Adam, what do you guys do you're at a group of stores, and obviously that creates an even bigger challenge for all of those different franchises. What do you guys do from a mentorship or apprenticeship standpoint?
Well, very similar to what everyone else is talking about. We have a real dedicated approach to taking that young technician, giving them a printed training plan for their online training, their classroom training, raises and or one-time bonuses so that they can see there's more money that they can earn as they go along, right? And then we were working similar also to have them assigned to a mentor in the shop, but we're currently in the process right now actually of transitioning to something that we're getting ready to roll out, which is instead of just having a mentor in the shop, putting them right next to an A-Tech, a Master Tech, in a bay next to them, assigning them to that Master Tech and putting in front of that Master Tech bonus money if they can get that young tech flat rate by X amount of months. So 5 months you earn this, 6 months they're in the shop you earn this, 7 months their flat rate they're going to earn this, but within 60 days they have to be assessed as to whether they have the drive, motivation, passion, and intensity that they can and will and want to succeed, so we know if it makes sense to continue to invest.
I'm glad you brought up flat rate, and we're going to cycle back to that on our lightning round before we get there. Rob, if you can touch on that from a vendor standpoint as well, a partnership standpoint, and then Joe, this is right up your alley to drive it home there.
Yeah, from a BG perspective, so training is critical, and we had 800 plus reps in the field and throughout North America, so we have a pretty good footprint. So we're in dealerships literally every week, training both on product, sales, process, everything, not just for technicians but for advisors and management as well. But I think that's the critical piece. We have a thing called BG Certified that every tech, every parts, and every advisor has to go through to help get them there. And then I think the other thing is that, I look at the physical elements of a shop. I was in one in Florida this past week, no air conditioning. I mean, my God, what are we doing? And it's going to be 95 in Sarasota, and they've got fans going, but that's it. Then the other thing too I look at is, how do we make it a desirable environment to work in, right? So air conditioning, obviously. If you ever been to a Roger Penske store, right, you can eat off the ground in the service shop. And when you go into the tech bathroom areas, spotless, right? You got to kind of take pride in what you do, right? And where you work and what you have. And I think from a dealership perspective, to Marco's point, we got to treat these people like professionals, like who they really are. They drive the most profit in the dealership by far, right? Because they're the ones that are doing the labor services. We're not talking just parts, we're talking labor and parts, so
They are a service inventory for sure.
100%.
Joe, I want you to talk about it from the apprenticeship standpoint as well, but then also take it back to how can we retain those younger guys?
Sure, and so this is always an interesting topic for me. We talk about it, it comes up on the Tech Vendor panel a lot. You know, we built a 28-year company on filling 911, I need a Chrysler Level 3 technician today needs, right? So this is the other end of that. Well, the problem with Chrysler Level 3 technicians is that they tend to come with Chrysler Level 3 technician attitudes. So when you go to the other end of the spectrum, and we talk about culture a lot on the Tech Vendor panel as well, and you could hire for a personality, an aptitude, show them the career path, you know, put them at the start and pair them up with your veterans, you know, show them, hey, this is how it's supposed to be done. Now you can truly build your culture. So yeah, there's always going to be the need for the 911 emergency hire, but when you have that career path and your setup is structured so that those younger guys want to be there and they want to spend 20, 30 years with you, then you can start hiring the people that you want instead of just hiring a resume.
So, Jan, we're getting a lot of valuable information here.
Absolutely. And you know, as someone that's new to the industry, it's really interesting to hear. We talked about roadmaps, we talked about mentorships, and I've been loving to hear what everyone has to say about how we're retaining these younger techs. And I would love to hear a little bit more how we keep them engaged with a sense of purpose and progression as well.
Jim,
Coming to me first? All right, so I think, and again, it's all you've talked about it a lot, and it's making them feel important. Tully, I believe it's your store. You guys, you put the banners up. You show these are our stars. These are our guys. They're driving profitability. They're an important part of the team. You can talk about money, and obviously the career path's important, and here's where we want you in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. But just feeling like you matter, just feeling like this is important. I'm not a grease monkey. I'm here. I'm a part of this team, and I'm important. I think is going to mean a lot to the younger people.
Jim, touch on that as well, if you would.
Sure, it's the same thing. Again, workplace culture plays a huge, huge role in this. So that could make or break any employee, but if it's toxic environment, you're gonna fail. If it's a good environment, supportive management team, leadership team is right there in check, and they value the technician's time, the knowledge, the money that they personally spend on their tools, okay? There's a huge, huge ongoing commitment for the entire career, as Marco could kind of speak to that. And you pay them properly. You have to make sure you pay them properly with the market, if not better than the market. If you want to retain these technicians and you want to continue their education and their growth, and you want them to be long-term players, which is what the goal is what we do, is you want long-term players, you have to treat them with respect. You have to include them in shop discussions, in shop equipment purchasing, make sure that your shop is clean, as you touched on, but it's with Roger Penske stores, and there's a lot of the stores that are just immaculate stores. The equipment is in working order, it's new, it's modernized, technology available for them to operate, laptops in their bays, things like that. It just makes a big, big difference. So long-term commitment is paying them properly, work culture, leadership, continuing their education and training, and that's going to be the answer to retaining those technicians.
Thank you. And Marco, I'm going to come back to you because ultimately we're talking about it to bring people in and give them opportunities, but you've lived in that world and you've apprenticed those guys, and you've brought them up from entry level to replacing you. So tell us some opportunities there.
The best thing you can do is not everybody's a people person. Let's start with that. Some of us are in the shop because we deal better with inanimate objects like cars other than dealing with people. So you have to hold it. It's almost like you're playing matchmaker. You have to play someone that comes into the industry with someone that still, after all these years, is excited about it. You're going to create that by having a great culture in the shop, by having guys being properly paid, etc. Because we talked about ROI. Well, if you pay me $60 an hour, but your door rate is $300 an hour, that's one heck of an ROI. Variable ops can do that. We can do that every dang hour of the day continuously. So invest in us. So take this young guy, put him with someone like me. Smile on my face, wise ass remarks every here and there, but I do what I do. I still love what I'm doing. It's just I feel that it's time for me to, if I would still want to be able to stand up when I'm retired, I need to start doing other things. So place them with people that still have the passion for it, that still like to do it, and that will transform into the passion for them. 100%.
Maureen, do you see some best practices out there with some of your vendor partners that you work with? And
Yeah, I do. I actually like to talk a little bit about Northwood. Last year, a number of us went to the fuel camp, and we learned so much from the young people around the table that we had the privilege to facilitate. And it's really about not only them, but getting their parents. We had triplets just graduated from college, so I'm a mama that is all about where is your future going to be. And it was really the young people at the table that said, we have a phenomenal industry, but we don't know about it. A lot of the programs are being cut in the schools and the community colleges. So we're going to have to figure out a way to utilize all the things we've talked about today to get the message out that the automotive industry is a phenomenal industry to work in. You make a very good amount of money, and we do have the growth plans, and we have all of the things we've been talking about. But they're young people with AI, so we've got to really show them how we're going to really integrate all of that into what we're doing.
100%.
Absolutely. And those,
so I'm going to create a lightning round here, and I'll start with you, Joe. Has flat rates served its time? So I'm going to put this in a standpoint 5 years from now. Take an easy one. Has flat rates served its time? And if so, what is the pay structure that we should be chasing?
So this is tough. And again, we talked about this on the panel, and I think we're missing a third party here, right? There's no OEM here, right? So I think it's got to start with them because they've kind of set that in motion. I think being flexible is the most important thing. I talk to a lot of clients, and hey, what's it going to take? I need this level tech. I need this. I said, honestly, you can't reinvent the wheel. I know you can't lose your 3 best guys because you're bringing in one guy that's going to make more than them. Be flexible, be open to doing a combination of a base plus production. Just be open-minded, I think is the most important thing.
Rob, 20 seconds or less.
Yeah, same concept. Sales has spiffs, commissions, right? And I think spiffs should play a huge role in this. I think trips, quite frankly, give your number one tech a trip at the end of the year, right? So we have something to look for.
After.
Then and then Penske Automotive Group, I'll use them again. They do a technician, I call it playoff, where they take the top 18 techs throughout their organization and they go to NASCAR or they go to the Indy 500, and they all take the same test, and the number one guy wins it, right? And he's awarded a trip after that again.
That's competition.
Yeah, competition. Yeah.
We are definitely taking a look at how to reward our technicians and show them proper appreciation. And recently we identified the technician in our group of 13 brands on one street that made the best multi-point inspection video after looking at hundreds of them. And we sent him with a guest to a New York Knicks game at a suite to say thank you. But I think even more importantly, we went up to the dealership in the middle of the day and walked over to congratulate, thank, acknowledge, and show appropriate appreciation.
It's good.
Yeah.
Continue to pay for experience. First and foremost, you have to pay how much talent is in that individual. The years experience, the work, the quality, monitoring comebacks, workmanship issues, things like that need to be monitored. Flat rate is in a general, could be classified as broken. There's no doubt about it. It needs to be revised, but never take your eye off the ball and continue to pay your staff properly.
Maureen.
Building on, Penske and Hendrick are also partners of ours, and I always take away that it's about the experience that they create, not necessarily the money. It's about doing something super special with the team. I will say one thing that from Del Grand Dealer Group, they're partners of Dynatron, is they really have made a focus of not waiting to do an annual increase, but to do it at benchmarks along the way, so that everyone sees that they can make a progress as they're going along. And we're really starting to look at that even as our own company about, it's not an annual, it's like, what's our goals? You do a planning, you hit it, you get rewarded, you move on. And we do that with our dealers every day is, once you hit the goal, you got to move the goal. You don't want to keep the goal there, right? So I think that are some of the things we've seen that have really worked.
Mr. Hours.
So I'm all about flat rate. I'm all about the American dream. You know, I don't think the American needs to stop at 8 hours. You know, when we look at last month, our technicians produced 152% of their efficiency. The average technician did 13.5 hours. 166 of these great technicians did. And that's because we're solely focused on selling the hour. When you're not solely focused on the hour, how many minutes of the day are they at the back counter? How many minutes of the day are they in there looking for a car keys? How many minutes of the day do they have to walk up to the service writer with his Burger King hat on to wait for him? These things take away hours. And when you're solely focused on the hours, our technicians shine. They're so awesome to go. I'm not forcing anybody to overwork, but our goal is that when you have the success in your shop and the culture to sell hours, solely focused, parts back counter people are huge hour killers. Pay them on the hours forecast. Are they involved in making sure that the technician is producing those hours? Because that's what we do. I'm all in on flat rate.
Bring it all in the circle. Tom?
My 20-second pitch. I'm with Tully. I still believe there is a place for flat rate, but it comes down to the leaders that are there, right? What's behind flat rate is technician should win, in my estimation. A technician should win on flat rate always. You should be able to work 40, get paid 50, 60, right? When it gets to a point where the work has changed and that technician is no longer able to do it, as leaders and as like, you know, we look in shop, you have to be able to change and grow with those technicians and watch those pay plans.
Marco?
Well, since you're talking about my paycheck, I have a thing or two to say. First of
Ready to
all,
hire you.
I disagree with Joe. At the end of the week, when I get my paycheck, it comes out of the bank account of my dealership, not of the OEM. It is up to the dealership to, I think, they should come up with a hybrid plan. They should look at each and every individual making that play. Because not everybody likes to work on flat rate. Not everybody likes to help a carrot. Like, oh, if you make 80 hours, we're going to give you this. We're human beings. What if I'm not feeling well this week? So you're giving me loose promises, absolutely nothing, but yet you still want me to kill you so you can make your numbers and get your bonus. So it should be a hybrid, and it should be individually. And yes, we can do that. We can pay people differently based on their experience, based on their capabilities, and you can use it to grow them, but you can also use it to retain them if you keep them properly paid.
Yes. And then,
So from my standpoint, pay plans should dictate the reward of what they bring to us. Yes. And we have to go back and ask ourselves the question, is flat rate still delivering the reward that we need it to do? I believe that it can. I believe that we have to manage it properly for it to happen. But ultimately, we have to dive back into it and make sure that it's doing what we ask it, what we want it to do. From Uber headquarters, Gene, you want to bring us home?
All right, what a thoughtful discussion we've had here. We are here at the Uber headquarters at World Trade Center. We are the Fixed Ops Roundtable, and we'll be right back.